Hey, what's up you guys? This is John Chacon with Austin Performance Fitness. Wanted to share with you today what I think is a proper burpee progression. If you've never done a burpee in life or you want to learn probably the safest way to do a burpee, everyone's got their own idea of how to do a burpee. There's different practices, different ways that people use. But the way I like to do it is the way to provide the most bang for your buck, benefit for your body, okay? Allowing you to get the best performance, the best all-around full body workout with this motion. And number two, which is also very important, is to prevent injury. I want you to do it the safest way possible, moving the way that your body was designed to move. So I put together the simple burpee progression, and I'm going to demonstrate all these movements as well as I go through them. So I have it up here on my handy dandy board. So first, here we go. Let's see if I can aim it for you guys. So first one, we got chest to floor get-ups. Okay, and I'm gonna explain what those are. It's basically going down to the floor and then getting back up. Okay, but in an organized fashion, if you will. Next, we got the modified burpee. We have 3 different versions of the modified burpee. One of them involves 1 foot going back at a time, 1 foot coming up at a time before you stand. The next one is going to be 2 feet going back at the same time, 1 foot coming back up at the same, or like at separate times. And then putting those all together, both feet come back at the same time for the fallout, both feet come up at the same time before the stand. Okay? After that, we go into our burpee with no jump, where you're basically just doing like you're falling back and you're standing tall, no jump. Okay? Then burpee with a jump. Okay, so coming all the way up to the same position, jumping up, landing nice and soft. The landing mechanics are very important for that to set you up for a solid burpee on the next rep. And then we finish that off with a burpee with the push-up and a jump. Okay, so bet you didn't know there was that many progressions. Hopefully this is helpful to you. I think it's, like I said again, the best way to get your most bang for your buck with this movement, while at the same time still maintaining safety and decreasing your potential for injury. So, first part of the burpee is going to be a chest to floor get up. What does that involve? First thing, for all these movements, your feet are going to be a little bit wider than shoulder width, okay? To allow yourself for a good hip hinge. What do I mean by that? Knees driving out to the side, butt back. As you plant your hands, you plant them nice and firm, so you have a nice, firm, stable base. Okay, from here, biceps planted forward. For this first version though, we're going to plant our hands. We're going to go 1 foot back at a time. For my case, left foot, right foot. Then from here, I'm going to touch my knees, hips, chest. Keep my arms in tight to the side. Then I'm going to push off. Chest, hips, knees. 1 foot up at a time flat. 1 foot up flat. Stand tall. Okay? Now, notice when I came up, my feet were nice and flat. I didn't end up with my feet up with the heels off the ground, okay, putting a lot of shear stress on the knees. It's not a good position. I highly recommend bring that foot up. If you need to, you can also work on stretching to make sure that hip can get to a safe position, okay? So, 1 foot back at a time, chest, hips, knees, hips, chest, both feet up, stand. That's your chest to floor get up. Now, going into the modified burpee, we're no longer going to be touching our chest to the ground. At this point, I'm going to plant both hands, solid hip hinge from here, 1 foot back at a time, maintaining that straight plank position, biceps forward, arms extended, feet back together, driving those heels back, squeezing the butt, then 1 foot up at a time, 1 foot flat, stand. That's modified burpee number 1. Modified burpee number 2, both feet come back at the same time during the fallout. Plant the hands, feet come back, 1 foot up at a time, stand. Okay? Make sure when you drop those feet back, those hips are nice and stable. Everything's locked in place. Squeeze the butt nice and tight. What I don't want to see is coming back and dropping the hips nice and low, hyperextending your lower back. Not a good position. You're going to have a bad day. Alright? Then, after that, both feet back at the same time, both feet up at the same time. With a stand, which brings us into our number 3, modified burpee with no jump. Plant the hands, both feet come back at the same time, both feet come up at the same time, nice and flat. stand, okay? Following that, then we get to go towards something that looks a little bit more like conventional burpee. This time we'll be adding in the jump. Most important part of the jump, in fact, is not the up part, but rather the down, the landing. Is by far, I think, the most important part and the most misunderstood part of pretty much any jumping movement, but especially with the burpee. When you land, absorb the forces properly. Drop your hips, allow your shoulders to come slightly forward, but keep a nice tall chest and a flat back. Absorb the weight. If you find yourself coming down and being able to, one, hear your feet, or two, coming up on the heels and falling forward, not a good position. When I land and I come up, I'll plant both feet back, both feet up, stand, absorb the weight. But the other important thing about that landing is you need to set yourself up for the next burpee. So when you come up, you should be able to, if you have that soft landing. The nice thing is the landing looks just like going into the next one. So when I land, knees drop out of the side, butt goes back, and I'm already planting my hands. If you land with the feet too narrow or having the knees come forward, you're going to end up looking like this, putting the knees, the hips, ankles, shoulders back in a poor position. We don't want to set ourselves up for that because we don't want to get hurt. We want to do hundreds of burpees, right? So your very last one is throwing in that push-up. Now, you can work on push-ups outside of the burpee. It is not something that needs to be added in there. No matter what anybody tells you, maybe your version has to have a push-up, but mine does not require that. It's something that is, in my gym, it's a progression. It's something that you can add in if you want a little bit more intensity or complexity. So, when throwing in the push-up, the nice thing is we've already set ourselves up for a good upright push-up position. Plant both hands, both feet come back together, drive the heels back, squeezing the butt, make sure the hips are in a good spot. Keep the forearms vertical, come down under control, back up. As you bring yourself up, launch those feet up, jump, land. There you have it, guys. That is your burpee progression. Now, a couple things that I do that others do not care about. Number one, when my feet come up, my feet are flat. I'm trying to reduce any shear stress that I'm putting on my knees because I want to be able to work out and be fit for a long time, the rest of my life, hopefully. Okay? Landing on the balls of your feet and coming up with the heels, probably not a good idea for long term. Other one, and that's the one you typically see if you're trying to go for speed, if you have a limited amount of time with burpees. That's the first thing I see start happening. Because the hips start getting tight, the quads, everything, people start landing on the balls of your feet. Don't let it happen, okay? Do it right every time. Next one, I don't allow the hips to drop when I go into the fallout position. Not a good idea. Now, if you watch my chest to floor get up, I'm not doing that. I'm doing that in control. I go 1 foot at a time, slowly drop the knees, then the hips, then the chest. It's a very controlled movement. In fact, it's very fluid if you watch it. Everything is in control. I'm not simply just dropping in there and allowing my chest to hit the floor and my hips to drop and smack the floor and come back up. It's a very smooth, methodical pattern, okay, and you can do that in control. Other thing, my hands, when I plant my hands, they are shoulder width apart. And when I go into that push-up, my forearms are perpendicular to my body. They're not back here like this, and they're not flaring out. Keep those things in control. Flat feet, hips up, elbows in. Remember those 3 things, okay? So, that has been your burpee progression from Austin Performance Fitness. That may not be your version, but I hope that some of the things I showed you today can help you out. If you've never achieved a burpee before, now you have the tools to do it. If you've gotten to that level where you want to be, maybe you can use these tools to help improve your burpee position and your performance in the gym, okay? And also preventing or lowering your potential for injury, okay? This has been John Chacon, guys, with Austin Performance Fitness in your coach's corner for the modified burpee progression. Take care, guys. Stronger every day. Peace.